Welcome to Pet Sitter Confessional, an open and honest discussion about life as a pet sitter. Today, we're brought to you by our friends at Time to Pet and Pet Perennials. What if we have a goal of building a robust and strong team culture? How do we go about doing that? Today, we're really excited to have Abby Strong back on the show. She's the owner of Auntie Abby's Pet Sitting, and she shares her transition from independent contractors to employees, how she's building a thriving team culture through leadership and employee recognition. Abby also shares how she's building client trust while also scaling her business so she never loses what it's all about. Let's get started.
Hi, Colin. I am so excited to be back here. My name is Abby Strong. I own Auntie Abby's professional pet sitting service. We're based in Des Moines, Iowa. And we offer pet sitting, dog walking, a pet nanny service. We do a little bit of it all.
Yeah, and I love, so you're a fellow Midwesterner, so hello.
Yes.
It's good to, let's see how things are going. So one thing that I know that you've been working on a lot and your focus has been is a lot on your team and your team aspects. So how have you personally changed how you approach your team or how you think about your team and lead them?
Oh, gosh. Well, for those of you who haven't listened to my original episode, we started in October 2019, and I was a solo care provider, and we've now expanded to a team of 25, which is really exciting. And I have always been big on creating a sense of community. And we made a big transition recently. We transitioned in January from independent contractors to employees. And one of the reasons behind that was just wanting to have a greater sense of community and helping everybody to feel connected and on the same page. And so we do a variety of things. We utilize Slack, and I have a kudos channel in Slack. And we send out shout outs all the time to team members who've really gone the extra mile or dealt with something difficult, or when a really great Google review comes in, we celebrate them. And we have lots of team get-togethers, and they're just fun, like monthly drop-ins. If it works for your schedule, come join us. We'll do something fun. If it doesn't, we'll catch you next time.
I love that. The community aspect is really hard to get. I mean, we know that this is a very lonely solo business. Like, people always ask when we get people apply, well, hey, what'd you like about your last job? Oh, I love my coworkers. I love getting to see people. I'm like, well, welcome to probably one of the loneliest jobs that you'll ever have. And it's not, because we get to play with pets and we're around that, that's really fulfilling. But as we look to build a strong team, and like you were saying, in order to do that, you have to have employees, because then you can have these facilitations, you can bring them together, you can require things, you can push for things, you can allow the communication. Like, that really starts building this cohesion. Because, one of the things that we work for is the continuity of care, right? The consistency of care, the team approach, this aspect of we're all working on this together. And that kind of piece is, we have to facilitate that. And, to know that you've taken, like, this is important. I have to make what you're doing, it sounds like, Abby, is you're making opportunities for these things to take place.
Yes. And, you're so right that oftentimes the team members are doing jobs independently. It may be that 2 or 3 people are cooperating on a travel job, but they don't get to interact directly with the entire team or come to the office and stand around the water cooler, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so having ways that we can all work together and get to know people that are in different regions, we cover a wide area of the greater Des Moines metro. It's really been a really positive experience for everyone. And they like to, be able to share fun stories from the job and cute pet pictures. We have a kudos channel, a community channel in Slack where we can share all these things as well. So, yeah. It's, the switch, like you were saying, to employees, it's so great to have policies and procedures where everybody is on the exact same page and the experience for the client is consistent. And we were fortunate, almost every one of our ICs transitioned over as an employee and they were excited about the opportunity, but um, everybody really did phenomenal work previously. But this has just allowed us to tighten things up.
Yeah, I think that's where you find is like, okay, there's no real major problem here, right? There's no pulsating
Right.
or bleeding wound that I'm trying to cover here. I just
Correct.
want to try and do something better, right? And take
Yeah.
this further. And those kudos channels, the team get-togethers, the fave photo sections, like
Yeah.
when you use Slack, which is that team communications app that's kind of allows you to share documents and photos and chat and have group chats within it and kind of organize and manage all of that,
Hmm.
it really allows that outlet because when we get together as a team, I love seeing how people go, oh, you took that great photo of Dax, or man, when you were on Baxter, and like
Yeah.
they have these stories and connections with the team that they don't have a way of expressing otherwise or reaching out in
Right.
that way. And so it just allows this cohesion because the other thing when you have that team approach, like it's real simple things like, okay, it's noon. um I should probably think about leaving a porch light on for the people coming over at night so it's light on
Right.
for them. And it's easier for them to be in that mindset when they know the person, they have a connection with the
Yes.
person. It's easier because if you don't, if it's just this nameless thing, it can kind of slip and you're like, well, why help? Or why
Right.
you don't think of helping people if you don't know people. And that's
Right.
really what can help build a lot of that too.
Right. And while, it is independent work, where you're at a job and you don't have another person with you. It's also teamwork because we're cooperating together with multiple clients. And so it's so important to be on the same page and to know the individual that you're working with. Um, Another thing we're getting ready to do, Colin, with our Kudos channel is integrate something called Assembly. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I have not, but you look very excited about it. So I'm
I
all
am
ears.
super excited. So, it is an employee recognition system, and you pay a monthly fee to the company, and then you can create awards, incentives, um, all sorts of things. You can recognize people on their birthday or their work anniversary. It's a very fun system, and you can use it to kind of gamify things too. Like if we have some challenges, within the team. And so I'm
Nice.
super excited about that to be able to do some things, some little extras for people. Um, and peers can send recognition to one another. We already have a pretty good uh, group of people who are good about that in the Kudos channel, but this allows them to take it a little bit further, which is nice.
Nice.
So I'm excited to get that going.
Yeah, well, and again, finding those ways to recognize that work that goes unseen, right? A lot of what we do, again, because we operate independent and solo, not independent contractor, but like by ourselves, it is hard to make sure that our employees feel that sense of recognition because
Yes.
it's like, man, they worked their butt off, but nobody was walking by the cubicle and say, saw the great thing, great job,
Right.
or at the water cooler or whatever they get together. So, that's when when you're integrating that assembly, you're working on that. One thing that you mentioned was you have people who are already really good about sending kudos. How do you nurture those kind of culture builders in your company?
Yeah, well, I do kind of a monthly check-in with everybody on our team, and it may just be 5 to 10 minutes, unless it's a time where we really need to sit down and have a conversation. Um, but I try to go over, different areas in Slack, and the different channels we have, and, kind of touch base on how things are going. What we ask of our people in Slack, not in the Kudos channel, but we have a team briefing channel, we have a training channel, a couple like mandatory ones, to drop an emoji, just acknowledging any team communication we've sent. And so I really just chat with people and, say, hey, it just means so much that you participate in this and that you throw these shout outs at people and, how appreciative we are.
just simple recognition, right? How do you build this up?
Yeah.
You recognize it, you encourage it, and that takes
Yes.
takes you being aware and watching and being present, and right, because
Right.
we have a few people on our team that they're the ones reacting to things before even like Megan and I can get there, and I'm like,
Yes.
man, like that's so I'm so thankful for you. Like it's nice, and because you want to be seen and recognized, it's the thing that people
Right.
want, and to be seen by peers and coworkers and people giving encouragement and kudos, that kind of it
Yeah.
really helps again build that cohesion.
Well, and one more thing I'll add that just popped into my head. We have a very strong social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. And gosh, maybe about a year ago, I started looking through reports and we had sitters that were taking selfies with
Oh,
pets. And I thought, these are so wonderful. And so I posted. And we got on a single post so much engagement from
mm,
clients and new people who are interested. We turned it into a regular thing. It's Sitter Selfie Sunday. And our
oh.
sitters just love that. And they love to share the pictures of pets with each other. And then when they see that we've shared them on our social media, they love to share them, with their friends and family. And that's been really good engagement too.
Oh, I love that. I love when our
Yeah.
employees, like moms, reshare our photos or they
Yes.
comment on it too. And you're like, oh, it's so nice. It's really like people
Yes.
like it really brings that sense of togetherness. And again, it's one aspect of going, okay, does this immediately translate into tons and tons of bookings? Well, no, but it may down the line. But what this
Right.
really is, this is what you're doing. This is that culture building,
Hmm.
that our values, what it means to be part of our team, and that is way more important than most of us really recognize
Right.
or really even try to invest in.
Right.
And I think that comes from unfortunately, a lot of like past history of, well, the last job that I worked at, because let's be real, like my past jobs, culture, what are you talking about? I showed up and made a job. Like it was,
Yep.
and and I complained a lot. Like, oh, hey, I wonder if there's a correlation here. here.
Yep.
And so, we bring that into a lot of what we do and wonder why sometimes things don't work out.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
what what other challenges did you have in making that switch, Abby? Because that's not a small thing to work
No.
through.
So it seemed very daunting to make this big transition with as large as we had grown. And I enrolled in Michelle Klein's mastermind over the summer and was really connected to this amazing group of business owners across the country, specific to our industry, and was listening to several of them who had made this transition themselves and started entertaining the idea and the reasons how this could just kind of propel us to the next level and all the benefits for our team members. And I decided to make a trip to Winston, North Carolina, Winston-Salem, to meet in person with Michelle and kind of go over what would this look like? What are the steps we need to take? What do the numbers look like? And walked away from that realizing this is the move I need to make. And I
Mhm.
walked into it thinking, can I afford to make this transition? I walked away realizing I can't afford not to. Um, and I was so excited, but I was also very anxious because I wanted to do everything correctly because I wanted to keep our awesome team together. I wanted to be able to convey to them why this was a good switch. And yes, the relationship is changing a little bit, but you know, and so what I did was I was very intentional about my communication with the team. And I sent out in January a very upbeat, positive note about, the trajectory of the company, how this is change and change can be difficult, but I was here to hold their hand through every step and walk them through and make this as easy as possible. And then I sat down with 26 different people that week. I outlined the differences between the two arrangements, the benefits, workers' comp, equipment provided, that the company would now pay for their insurance and bonding, um, taxes, all the great things. And happy to report that almost everybody made the transition and signed their offer letter.
Mm.
From there, we had an awesome team orientation. We gathered everybody in my office. We looked over our handbook and manual. We had treats. We just really pumped it up.
Have you heard of Time to Pet? Susan the Pet Gal has this to say.
Time to Pet has helped us grow exponentially. We believe the platform's features make us by far more professional than other companies who use conventional dashboards. They are the software gurus constantly developing and improving the platform based on user feedback. This decision was a good one.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show will save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. I think highlighting those benefits, right? And it sounds like the biggest challenge was really your mindset going into that. And I love that framing of can I afford to do this? Because there are costs involved financially of obligations now placed on the business versus the individual. But going, what was that deciding factor for you, Abby? Of you said you couldn't afford not to do this. Was there one or two particular things that really pushed you over that edge?
Multiple reasons. One consideration was the workers' comp. And the consideration, if something were to go terribly wrong, somebody falls and they shatter their ankle, or there's a dog bite. We already had great contract about, that outlined what the client responsibility was, et cetera. But if there's something catastrophic, how, does that hold up? We're talking tons of money there, and how important that protection is. So that was one thing, after I explored that more and talked with other business owners, that was keeping me up at night. I wanted to make sure our team was protected, and I was doing everything I could to ensure that happens. The other thing, quite honestly, I'm not much of a numbers person. And, I came into this business as a solo provider. I realized, a little ways into that, there's a huge need. I could grow a team. This is great. But I didn't necessarily have the financial knowledge of, okay, as you grow a team, these are the extra expenses you take on, these are the different things. And in looking at numbers closely with Michelle, I realized that what I was making per hour, if you calculate it by the number of hours I was working, wasn't a whole lot. And I kept wondering, why am I not, getting ahead here and having this mindset of we just need to generate more business, and realizing there was much more strategy to it. So making sure that, I was looking at my financial future. Yeah. And then also, the client experience. And like I said, we have always had fantastic people on our team that are eager to please and go the extra mile and leave amazing reports, but just wanting to really, really, really fine tune that and make sure we're doing our absolute best.
Because you can only, growth only covers up so much, right? And when you're right, and I think that aspect of I can outscale a lot of my concerns or my fears, my anxieties, problems. That only takes you so far. And to know, like what you're saying, of going, okay, well, let me actually backtrack this and find out where the root is, so I can start building on something and make it look different, right? And it's kind of one of those of would I rebuild this, knowing what I know now? Would I rebuild this the exact same way as I did? And going, well, actually, whenever I layer in no, I want my team to be protected, and I want more peace of mind for my clients, and I want these things. Where do I go for that, right? And that sounds like that's really what motivated you to make those decisions.
Yes, and it's been a learning experience, realizing that things are not set in stone. That we can make changes and that they can be successful, that we can grow and make all these changes. And sometimes we get stuck in, well, this is how I know how to do things. And I know for me there was some fear there. This is what I know, and now we're going into some new territory, and that's scary, but being willing to do that.
Well, so
Yeah.
with that transition from independent contractors to employees and everything else, how did you have to change like how you led the team and managed them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's a different role and a different relationship, whereas before we certainly had a standard for the level of care for our clients and, making sure that we had quality individuals. Now I was really able to have an outline for how the job should be done and to level set, when we're working together, we want to make sure we're doing XYZ. And at a meet and greet with a client, these are the things that we need to cover. After the meet and greet, I'd like you to fill in this form so that, we have all the info we need if we need to follow up on anything. And those were things that felt, they helped create a sense of security and knowing for the team, knowing what was truly expected of them, and helping to make sure that, there weren't things that fell through the cracks.
It's both of that. The team gets security because to be clear is to be kind, right? You're able to
Right.
be you're able to be kind to them and going, when I say that we provide excellent care, here is the definition of excellence and how you know that you've been
Right.
successful. And then on your end going, I know that I
Yes.
can tell them. But what comes with that is all of a sudden when you set standards,
Mm-hmm.
somebody has to hold that person accountable, right? And now all of a
Yes.
sudden that falls to us of
Right.
now I have to have the hard conversations. I have to help motivate, encourage, nurture, grow, oversee this progress and these changes. And I have to be the one who ultimately will have to make some hard decisions sometimes through this.
Yes. And I feel like I was at a point where I was really ready to step into that role and confident in what I knew helped us to be successful as a team and what the client experience should be and all of those things. And so I felt very ready to step into that role. And, it's been a transition. Especially with people who've been on the team for a while as a contractor, there's a role shift there and there are different expectations. But I was also very good about outlining, these are the things that we're doing. Here's how to successfully navigate a shift. This is what I'm needing. And yeah, that's
I'm
been
sure there
good.
may have been some awkward points of,
Yes.
did you ever feel like you were retraining people and that it kind of
Yes.
felt like it was a little waste because, oh, well, you already know this. I know, I just kind of have to go through the motions here.
Right. I will say, so when we had our orientation, prior to that, I had given everybody a paid hour to read the employee handbook and the manual, and then we gathered and looked over them, and I read through everything, and we discussed if there were any questions, etc. Um, I now know that I would have chosen to actually build in some additional training hours with that. I It's kind of a fine line because as you're saying, the people know how to how to do the job and they've been here for a while. And so, you're not wanting to I don't know. It's a little bit of a balance. And I realized though, it is a big change. And so we did have to kind of go back and say, okay, this is what this actually means. This is why this is important. So we did some additional training. I wish I had just built that in initially.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you're right. You don't want to come across as being, demeaning or, belittling,
Correct.
kind
Correct.
of thing. However, you're going, but also, right, like
Right.
this is just checking in and redefining this and making sure, but to have confidence in that,
Right.
to go, hey, I know you've been doing this a long time. I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and
Yes,
here's how we're going to move forward, and to really not discount that aspect of kind of using that as a nice reset point for the team.
exactly.
Now, I know that did anything surprise you when you went through this process, or maybe surprise about yourself as you made this transition?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I wasn't sure how things would settle, right, with our team, and making this transition, who was going to choose to go on this journey with us and who might decide, I just don't know if I'm on board. And I was very pleasantly surprised that almost everybody moved over as an employee. We had, I think, two people who were very part-time who it just wasn't going to make sense for them. But otherwise, everybody, decided that they wanted to go on this journey. And, there was uncertainty. And I just was very, encouraging and letting them know that, I'm here to walk through this with you as you have questions. And there are going to be things that I will need to adjust to as we, navigate this new normal together. And so I think we just had grace with each other. Yeah. And I've just learned that I'm very adaptable. As things happen, we address them and we look at, how can we make this a smoother process for next time?
I
Yeah.
like that, being open and honest about kind of where you're coming from.
Yep.
And basically being like, hey, I've never managed employees before, and you've never been my employee before. So guess
Right.
what? Right. Everybody's learning. And I
Yeah.
think that that's just really healthy. I think that really helps set those expectations and does allow that space for grace in that
Yeah.
relationship whenever you just come to somebody, and it takes being vulnerable. Right. And I think too often we think, oh, I need to be a strong leader, which means I need to feel, or I need to project like I have everything under control and
Right.
everything's perfect and fine. But when we're going through something like this, where you genuinely needed their response and their interaction, their feedback,
Yes.
their encouragement, like you were working together with both of them,
Right.
both of you were working together through this process. Like you have
Right.
to put that out there.
Well, and Colin, the other thing is, this wasn't something I entered lightly. I spent months making sure that we had absolutely awesome policies in place, that I had worked through the financials, that I had, payroll set up with my bookkeeping team. I worked with an HR attorney. I did all the things to make sure that walking into this, I could say confidently, I know what I'm doing. Yes, there are going to be moments where we're going to realize we need to make some changes. We need to tweak this a little bit, or, how we're doing things in Slack, et cetera. But I think our team also felt like they knew that I was really taking this seriously and doing everything I could to make sure this was a successful transition.
Yeah, when you have the team backing you, right? That really knowing that it's not just you pulling and dragging
Yes.
people, kicking and
Yeah.
screaming, like you're able to walk forward together, and
Yeah,
like that. That must have felt really nice.
it did. It did. Yeah. And, people had all sorts of questions and, there's a learning curve, and the way that we structured things, we switched to hourly pay versus per piece.
Okay.
People had to kind of wrap their mind around that and what that would look like, so there was a lot to talk through. Yeah.
And I know, a lot of everything I know that you do and you work on is really focused on, you talked about that peace of mind, both for you, for the team, and also for the client. How
Mhm.
have you worked to build that culture of trust, of comfort, of peace of mind for your clients through this?
Right. Well, what I do is, is through the hiring process. Okay. As I'm meeting with people and, going over all the different things. One, I talk to our new hires about how I vet our clients for them,
Mm.
so that they are not walking into a situation where they need to be concerned about their safety, um, in the client's home with the client's pets, and all the things we do to onboard new clients. And then I say the same to our clients. I thoroughly vet our team. I run a background check. I speak with multiple references. We train, everybody's insured, all the different things, because I do want to create a sense of, not a sense of, I want people to know there is huge security in working with a professional team. And we use Time to Pet. And, I I am able to see that everybody is where they need to be. We're constantly monitoring the portal from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Nobody's going to miss a visit. No pet is going to go without care. All the different things. I tell our clients on the phone when I do my initial intake call, I want you to have peace of mind. I want you to go on your trip and be present and enjoy it. And know that we will follow up with you each time we're there with a report. You do not have to contact us and pepper us with questions or wonder, what time we were there, or, is your cat using the litter box like they should? All those different pieces.
I like that both. Excuse me. I like the both vetting the clients for the team and the team for the clients. I think that is what that was an aspect that it took Megan and I a while to really appreciate, the vetting our clients for our team.
Yes.
That safety aspect of do they really trust, or are they really going to be safe in ensuring them? And it was one reason why we wanted to train all of our employees on what the meet and greet process was like. So they knew, like, this is what everybody goes through. And the better questions you ask, right? The better questions we ask as a company, the better we can perform and make an informed decision on how to move forward. And
Absolutely.
This is why this process is important. And whether that employee ends up doing a ton of meet and greets or not, at least they've been exposed to that so that they have confidence, and it builds confidence in the rest of the team to know that there are all of these little pieces, there's all these little processes working in the background to ensure that everybody's set up for success.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I know, as far as your company culture, have you ever had to fire a client for not being a good fit for it?
I have. The larger that you grow, the greater the number of people that you work with and interact with. And one lesson I've learned over the years is that we can't be everything for everybody. When I first walked into this, you're wanting every different client, and yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. And this has been the year of me saying yes. We did away with our overnight care where a sitter would sleep in the home. I realized that service was no longer serving our team. It wasn't serving me. And so kind of niching. And with that, there are certain clients you might not be able to serve, or there are clients, we've had a few that have not treated our team with respect. And that's something that I won't tolerate. Overall, we have had such a wonderful client base. And I think we weed out through our onboarding process a lot of people who would not be ideal to work with. Because, they've got to go through the steps. They've got to do an intake call with us. They fill in their information. I mean, you have to want our service, right? But yeah, occasionally you get a situation where you think this is not this is not what we thought it would be.
Right.
The overnight pet and house sitting, that was a large piece of our business. And it was a service I had a very love-hate relationship with. It was something I did myself for years and years. And I thought there were a lot of wonderful pieces for the pets and the clients, but there's also the time away from your own home and your own family and pets. There's the aspect of, if a sitter is signed up to do this and has some sort of emergency themselves, finding coverage, which would oftentimes default to me. And I was really frightened to do away with it because we had so many people that use that service, and realized that with the way that we can customize our services between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., really most clients do well with that. And we already had plenty of clients booking that way, where we didn't stay overnight. So I reached out individually to each client that had utilized overnight services, explaining the transition, what that looked like, the reasoning behind it, coming up with what I thought would be a good plan for them going forward. And, while we had some questions, overall, it was received pretty well. And many of our clients did continue on with our new model. We had a few that I referred out just because I knew for various reasons their pet really needed someone there overnight. Maybe they needed to go out during the night frequently to go potty, that sort of thing.
As pet sitters, we're there for the joyful moments and the heartbreaking ones too. When a client loses a pet, finding the right gift can be hard. That's where Pet Perennials comes in. They make it easy to send thoughtful, sympathy, and milestone gifts with a handwritten card, colorful gift wrap, and shipping fees included in the US and Canada. You choose the gift, they handle the rest. Sign up for a free gift business account and get discounted pricing with no fees or minimums. Learn more at petperennials.com. How was making that first phone call to that client to tell them you were canceling the service that they'd booked for years?
Oh, yes. I thought you meant canceling a service. We honored everything we had on the books.
No. But how was that phone call to say, hey, you've been booking overnights. We're no longer offering those. But what was going through your mind when you made that first call?
It felt scary. And on a personal level, not wanting to disappoint people and, having these relationships that we love and then suddenly, doing away with something that had a lot of value to them. But also knowing that we had this great relationship and we're still able to help, right? We're just taking out this one component of what it looks like. And so the more I reached out to people, the better and more confident I felt about it. And I'm happy to say that, we had our last overnight in November 2024, and it didn't hurt our finances at all. We continued to grow. Like I said, a lot of people booked, this new way, and it worked really well.
Oh.
Yeah. And what a load off of my mind to not be worrying, what if something happens? What if I need to step in? And all sorts of situations would pop up, there would be instances where, a sitter was at somebody's house for 10 days and we realized the pets would not let them sleep through the night and they were miserable and couldn't sleep. And then, trying to complete their walks the next day, or just various things that would pop up and never quite knowing what that would look like until you were doing it. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that you don't want to disappoint people. That's a big part, right? Of our, we're such a heart-based business. We want to serve people. We want to serve pets well. And that kind of defaults to in whatever way they want. Whatever you want, I'll do. I want to make sure that you're happy. I want to make sure that your pets are cared for and that this goes off really well. But to ultimately know, hey, I've got to move in a different direction. I've got to do this for all those reasons that you listed, Abby, of like, sometimes these are just horrible to go through. It's not a vacation. And no, I do not care if you have a hot tub and cable. It's not no.
Exactly.
Wow. It's just, it stops being worth it. And to know that, I think also too, to know that, it's not just impacting me, it's impacting my team, right? And it's how they're feeling. And I really got to protect them and make sure that this is working for everybody. And so how do I make that happen? And that's one of those tough decisions and phone calls that we have to make sometimes.
Right. And I will say another piece with the overnights is it was limited to the people on our team that wanted to offer that service, right? And so in doing away with that, what we've done is open up with our travel clients the ability for every member on our team to help with that job. And that's been huge too.
Now, there's this decision you've made to craft your business around the direction you want to go to. Have you ever, let's say you get feedback from a client. Have you changed policies about your business based off of feedback in that way, kind of moving in the other direction?
Yeah, I love client feedback and regularly encourage our clients, after they've had a travel booking, I send out communication, how did we do? Let us know what went well. And overall, we've gotten really positive feedback, but we've had clients suggest different things, like, gosh, it would have been helpful if we had added on a little time to some of the visits during the trip, and I'll say, going forward, if that's ever something you'd like to do, we can always pivot, in the middle and change our plan, or, so yeah, I'm always very open to feedback and looking at what we can do to make a more positive experience.
And it's not to say that when the client sends in that feedback form that you go, great, I'll stop exactly what I'm doing and I'll just do whatever they say, right? Because that's not a good way to run a business.
Right.
We send out client feedback, and we certainly do get the, the one change I would make is that everything would be 30% cheaper. Like,
right.
Cool. That's not like I can't do that one. I hear you. But also going, what's reasonable, and I think just being open to all feedback. That doesn't mean that you implement all feedback. And that's a very fine distinction that sometimes we think, if I'm asking for feedback, it means that I'm promising that I'm going to do whatever they say. And no, you take it under advisement. You look at where you're headed, what your mission, vision, values, and goals are. You look at what your team culture is. You look at how you want to serve people, and you go, does this fit? Can it work? And then you decide.
Well, in that feedback, it can be hard for any of us. Like you were saying, this business is full of heart. Everybody that operates a pet care business comes from a place of really caring for pets and really caring for people. And when we receive feedback, sometimes we can take things personally, or at least I know I can, and feel like if there's something that isn't as positive as you would like, it's a little bit of a criticism that you internalize. So I think I've done a much better job as we've grown of, when feedback like that comes in, really examining it and saying, okay, this, we need to look at why this feedback was given to us and what could we possibly do, going forward in the future. And that's valuable because it's helping us to ensure we have other clients who don't experience that feeling, so really all feedback, even if it feels, critical or that sort of thing, is really, really valuable.
Yeah.
It's not just the accolades and, the praise and that. It's all very valuable.
Yeah. Because sometimes it can point to more underlying problems, right? More underlying assumptions. Sometimes it does. It's never a bad idea to revisit previous decisions, to revisit assumptions and things that we have, and just look at them and reassess and go, is this still true? Is this still what we believe? Is this still how we want to operate? And that helps you strengthen convictions. It helps you refine a lot of language sometimes, because that's what we've done a lot of. We've gone, man, that makes perfect sense. And then you get feedback and you're like, oh, they were unhappy. Why? Oh, well, because here it says one thing and here it says another thing. So let's strengthen this.
Right. Yeah. And, a lot of times it's feedback where we realize we need to clarify something with the client that they didn't quite understand about the way that we operate. And so it's, our chance to have that conversation and make sure there's clarity going forward.
Yeah, because you want that, and to not be offended by the feedback. I think that's another important aspect too of, I mean, sometimes the feedback's personal. Like, okay, let's be very real here. Sometimes they mention me by name, and that's fine. Like, we're just gonna, okay. But it's really going from a company perspective, right? Because I don't think Walmart executives take feedback personally. I don't think that these big companies take things personally. They may make them sad that somebody didn't have a good experience, but going from I'm going to put my business perspective on, and as a business, how do I handle this feedback? And that kind of mindset is at least help me get some separation between the feedback coming in, and instead of just feeling like I'm being stabbed in the heart over and over again with that kind of feedback.
Well, and it helps too, Colin, to be able to network with others in our business, right? And talk with them about how they handle feedback or how they solicit that feedback with their clients. I think in our industry, we can feel somewhat isolated because, where you may go out in your community and you've got so many different lawyers or, the different professions, right? This is more of a niche thing, and it's easy to feel kind of isolated.
Yeah, it is. It is because there's not one visibly on every street corner, or not one that you see all the time. You can just pop in, right, and say hi.
Yeah.
We don't have that. And so that's a different perspective. That's a different level here too. We talked about the importance of building that community and culture for our team, right? And making sure they feel connected. But then we, as the business owner, we have to find the circle that we're going to run in, who we're connected to for our
Yes.
benefit and ourselves too. And it's different needs, but it is still necessary.
Right. And it's also, from the client perspective, we're the leaders here in this industry without having, lots of other options for them. What should this look like? What is standard? Um, just providing that for them as well.
Yeah. Well, you've changed your business a lot over the past year, and I know since we've spoken a lot. Where are you headed for the next 5 years? What are you most excited about?
Oh gosh. I'm so excited about our future, which is just an awesome place to be in. One thing I'm working on right now is building out additional roles within our team, areas for advancement for, team members who aspire to that, to help with management tasks, to take on trainer roles with new hires. And so I'm excited to be able to offer people a way to grow within the company. I'm excited to have that help myself. We are continuing to network with lots of different groups. One thing I'm looking at is joining the Chamber of Commerce near us and have a meeting with somebody about that next week on the membership committee. We do a lot of philanthropic work, and I'm really excited to be able to do more things with that. We, for the past several years, have sponsored the Bailing Out Benji annual gala. And we've helped to put on another annual event for them called Spalloween. That's at a local day spa. And so just looking forward to more opportunities, ways we can help, ways we can grow. Are there new service offerings? So looking at a wide variety of things.
Oh, and I love, when hearing you talk about that, how it's personal, and it's community focused. Right. And I think, that kind of mind shift from what is my business revenue going to be to how can I contribute to my community? Like what's a larger role that I can play for the betterment of people and pets? And like really, really thinking about that. Like, and I love that because I'm constantly reminded of, oh no, I have a business. I can do things, right? Like I can sponsor that. Yes, I can sponsor.
Right.
And it's because it's like, when you have that perspective of my business is doing stuff, all of a sudden it just takes that to now I'm operating kind of at that 30,000 foot mindset of what are we doing versus what am I doing?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the other piece I am enjoying is being able to provide a wonderful place for many people to be an employee, as we grow our team. I'm so proud of what I've built and, the team culture that we have and all those things. And I love that we can contribute to our community by being a really wonderful workplace.
That's awesome. Abby, I'm so excited to have gotten to get connected with you again, get caught up on all the awesome stuff that you're working on, and to hear you're encouraging to us to seek after and find these things as well in our own business. For those who want to follow along, get in touch, pick your brain on stuff, how best can they do that?
Yeah, so our website is www.auntieabbyspetsitting.com. We have information about our team and our process and all our different services. There's a contact page, and anybody can also reach out via email, info@auntie.abbyspetsitting.com, or by phone, 515-305-2221.
Awesome. Well, I will have those links in the show notes and on the website. Abby, it's just been an immense pleasure, and I'm so thankful for your time today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Colin. I always enjoy chatting with you, and your podcast has so much value for so many business owners. I tune in regularly. I love to hear what other people are doing, the challenges they're facing, how they overcome them. So just what a true pleasure, and what an awesome thing you and Megan do.
Many times in business, we reach a crossroads and have to make a decision and a transition in our business. Usually the first thought is, can I afford to do this? Many times, though, it's not about whether we can afford it. It's about whether we can't afford not to. I know, a lot of double negatives there. These take bold moves and decisive action to move forward in these decisions. Whether it's to move from one service area to another, offer a service that you haven't before, raise your prices, or, like Abby here, moving from independent contractors to employees. Making leaps come with risks all of the time, but they also come with clarity. Sometimes our leadership means trusting our own gut, either listening to our community or building the structure that our business really needs. If you're at a crossroads, maybe it's time to ask, can I really afford not to make this move? We want to thank today's sponsors, Time to Pet, and our friends at Pet Brignoles for making the show possible. And we really want to thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll be back again soon.